with that being said, you big dummies, you getting paid now.
Right.
Everybody now has an opportunity to pull up their chair and have a...
For the past year, we've seen Sheryl Swoopes repeatedly target Caitlin Clark with bizarre claims, saying she's a 25-year-old competing against teenagers, that her rookie season isn't impressive, and that no one wants to play with her. The attacks seem never-ending.
Some of your peers, they will recognize, her game, but they won't recognize her impact.
Right.
How can you separate the two? It's kind of hard, right?
And I used, Jack, you're absolutely right. And I was like, come on, you big dummy.
Then Cheryl Miller stepped into the ring. The basketball legend and former Clark coach just delivered a knockout blow on the All the Smoke podcast, calling Swoopes a big dummy and dismantling the false narratives. Miller is putting Swoopes in her place, and her defense of Caitlin Clark reveals something surprising about the future of the Indiana Fever, leaving fans buzzing with excitement. Are you ready? Let's go.
Two-time Player of the Year, two-time National Championship, two-time Tournament MVP, first woman to dunk in an organized game, gold medalist. Thank you for making time. Welcome to the show, Cheryl Miller.
Before we break down everything Miller said, have you ever wondered why one of basketball's legends seems so determined to tear down the WNBA's brightest new star? Let's unpack the bizarre crusade Sheryl Swoopes has waged against Caitlin Clark, from her college days all the way through her rookie season.
Let's also talk about how much more experience that gives you over other players coming in, right? So people say, dang, like he or she's killing them, but you have a 25-year-old playing against a 20-year-old.
It all started with Swoopes making wildly inaccurate claims about Clark's college career. Perhaps her most outrageous statement was claiming that Clark was a 25-year-old playing against 20-year-olds during her time at Iowa. The reality? Clark was just 22, competing in her fourth year, like countless other college seniors. When called out on this falsehood, Swoopes backpedaled, suggesting it was just hyperbole related to COVID eligibility rules. A weak excuse that didn't hold water.
Clark right now probably takes about 40 shots a game.
Here we go.
I know you like that.
Hell yeah.
I said that because when she comes to the league, regardless of what team she goes to that has vets on that team, she probably ain't gonna get 40 shots.
But Swoopes was just getting started. She went on to claim that Clark took 40 shots per game, painting her as a selfish volume shooter. The actual number? Clark averaged 22.7 shots per game. What makes this claim particularly ironic is that Swoopes herself averaged 19.2 shots per game during her senior year, just 3 fewer than Clark. Talk about throwing stones from a glass house. When Clark was closing in on the all-time NCAA scoring record, Swoopes shifted tactics again, questioning the legitimacy of the achievement by suggesting Clark needed a 5th year to break it.
Ask me about Caitlin. If you're going to break a record, to me, if it's legitimate, you have to break that record in the same amount of time that that player set it.
Okay.
Right? So if Kelsey Plum set that record in 4 years, well, Caitlin should have broke that record in 4 years. But because there's a COVID year and then there's another year, you know what I mean? So she's already had an extra year to break that record. So is it truly a broken record?
This was completely false. Clark shattered the record in 4 years, the same amount of time as other college players. Swoopes conveniently ignored the fact that the COVID eligibility rule would have allowed Clark a 5th year, but she chose not to use it. As Clark entered the WNBA, Swoopes boldly predicted she wouldn't dominate in the league. But as Clark began breaking rookie assist records and establishing herself as one of the league's premier playmakers, Swoopes mysteriously went quiet. The numbers speak for themselves. Clark finished her rookie campaign averaging 19.2 points and a league-leading 8.4 assists per game, silencing the doubters and securing Rookie of the Year.
Wouldn't be good. What I said was I didn't think Caitlin or Angel would come into the league and dominate immediately, which I don't think either of them did.
Respectfully, there is absolutely no way, even when we're trying to sit here and play semantics about dominating, there's no way that anyone could ever leave this season in saying that both Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese didn't dominate. You would have to further explain what dominance means for you to not sit here and say that a player who is leading the league in assists while averaging 19 to 20 points didn't dominate.
Perhaps most telling was Swoopes' appearance on Angel Reese's podcast, where she continued to undermine Clark, while insisting she doesn't dislike her. A classic case of saying one thing while doing another.
Cheryl, since she was in college, I helped do her shoe deal with Nike in 1993, took her to her first SBs. I've known Cheryl, I've coached her, have a lot of respect for her. I called her when Caitlin was still playing at Iowa and she had just broken Maravich's record. And it was all over the place, as you and I have discussed, that there was this quote by Cheryl that said, Caitlin was, 25 years old. She was, 24 years old. She was a fifth-year senior. Right. She was taking 40 shots a game. Her records were illegitimate.
The basketball world took notice of this pattern, and eventually, Swoopes was removed from broadcasting a Fever game. She was replaced by Nancy Lieberman, who didn't hesitate to call out the misinformation being spread about the Rookie sensation.
Off the treadmill, and I called her as a friend, and I said, you can say whatever you want. You can have your own opinion about anybody, but you do have to get the statistics right. I mean, facts matter. And if you just get ahead of this and just say, hey, I made a mistake on my numbers, then this thing is over and everybody respects you for your opinion. And, you might like Boston, I might like the Yankees. It's okay to have difference of opinions. Well, she got upset with me on the phone, and I was like, Cheryl, I'm not doing anything to hurt you. I'm just sharing. We're talking. And so our relationship it pretty much is not happening at this point. I tried to talk to her at the Final Four. Right. She didn't want to talk to me. My life's going to be good or great with or without Sheryl Swoopes in my life.
The basketball world had been desperately waiting for someone with credibility to step into the Caitlin Clark conversation. That moment finally arrived when Cheryl Miller walked into the All the Smoke podcast studio and absolutely lit up the critics. What happens when a basketball legend who's actually coached Clark decides she's had enough of the nonsense? You get one of the most authentic and powerful defenses we've seen in women's basketball.
No, Jax, you're absolutely right. And I was like, come on, you big dummies. Is she getting hyped? Yes. Yeah. But she was in the backyard. She was putting in the same time, sometimes maybe more than you were.
Right.
I can't fault her for what she was